I looked at the past 8. How many voted in all 8 elections? Out of 1,000 people, and actually about 1,000 Republicans in my precinct, 10%. There are people sitting home on the couch that either don't care or upset in deciding not to vote. So when people tell me, oh my God, where are we going to get people to vote? All I got to do is convince some folks sitting at home, hey, you're registered. You know how to find your way to the polling place. You've done it before. What can I do to help you get to the polls? So hopefully by developing a relationship, I can do that. So that's another thing I do with this data. So the first thing you do is you look at that super voter list. Every politician and every political consultant who advises these politicians has their own terminology. They call these people super voters. Zach calls them hard voters. Somebody came up with 3 R's. I don't know where that came from. But you can break that list down and find a volunteer who wants to meet their neighbors. You hand them the list and you say, well, you don't necessarily want to go argue with the Democrat. How about going to the Republican and vote 6 out of 8 elections? Just as Ron, again, I'm parroting what Ron said this morning, you're going to look down that list and say, I know these people. You know, I just never talked to them about what can I do to help you register your kids to vote. You know, are your kids all registered? You know, grandma's in the nursing home. Is she registered to vote? Maybe we can take a voter registration card over and help her get signed up for the Republican Party so she can vote in the primary. You know, your kids that just turned voting age, hey, you know, are they all registered? You notice that Karen pointed out she had a table at a community event. You know, you can do things like that. But anyhow, you know, way before the election, you can look for volunteers. Closer to the election, you're now looking for voters. This is all about nothing more than being, you know, the big difference between us and the left is their campaigns rely on deceit. I don't care, again, whether it's a local election, whether it's an issue, such as Common Core, their campaigns rely on deceit. If you come across as honest and show your true values, you will have great success. A lot of your neighbors, how many people talk to people about Common Core? All right, your hand second. Now, with your other hand, tell me, when you talk to somebody for the first time about Common Core, how many of them ever heard about it before? Very few, right? The same thing, you'd be surprised as to how many of your neighbors may not even know when the next primary election date is, or when they have to have their voter registration complete in order to vote. Let me ask another question. How many of y'all, show of hands, get a phone call near election time from people asking you how to vote? All right? You have credibility. That's what we're trying to sell here, is develop your relationships, do it honestly, with integrity, and you're already halfway there. And that's what Ron was pointing out, is that just look at the people you know, the people that call you for that information. And that's kind of how easy it is. When Lori talked about fun, yeah, I happen to believe that the left and what they've done to this country, and by the way, I'm going to be very honest with you, I consider it's what I have done by not being more active in prior years. So I feel I kind of let this happen to my country. But they're robbing me of a lot of fun because I'm having to take the time to take my country back. So I take what Lori said earlier. But when you get into this, it does actually, there's a lot of fun associated with it. When people thank you for what you've done, that's pretty uplifting. So if you just simply tell your neighbors about what's going on in Columbia County and Lake City, where you are now, we have, the police chief has a breakfast with the police chief. You know, if you did nothing more but tell people, hey, you going down to the breakfast? You know, that's a civic event, might be fun to go down there. So that's how you build credibility. That's how you build people calling you to find out how to vote. Help them register. Ultimately, in the relationship, we'll help them go vote. So, and you have a menu of who you need to worry about or focus on. So I take that same list I got from the supervisor of elections. Gary will give it to you. AFP will give it to you. Everybody has their list. Whoops. Wrong button. This time I just sorted it differently. I did what I call a walk list. You can also do a phone list. This tells me everybody down the street. Now I know the sex, the party they're in, and I know their voting history. So this person, and again, I'm not making this stuff up, folks. American Majority has a lot of training. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about some free training. Yes, sir?
How do you manage to sort it the way you want it? Is it given to you in the
Well, I'll cover that in a minute. Whoops. Button problems here. The training that's available say, well, this person's pretty solid. What you want to do is contact them. You only have to contact them once or twice. You just want to make sure they know who's running and who to vote for. What the left has discovered, all this is public, by the way, what the left has discovered, if you go to somebody's door and say, you know, you can ask them, hey, are you going to vote? Yeah. If you happen to ask them, can you tell me your plan for voting? Tell me what your plans are. Are you going to early vote, absentee, whatever? If they articulate, yeah, I'm going to do an absentee ballot and mail it in. If you can get them to give you details, that means they've mentally committed to voting. And if you can get your candidate's name in that commitment, they basically committed to vote for your person. So that's important because that gives them one step closer to making it to the poll. All right? So I wanted to throw that. So this person, you really only want to get their plan out and ask them if they need any help. This person is pretty reliable. I may have to work on him a couple of times to make sure, you know, they dropped out. Some of these people, if I have time, I may go after that person. That may take a lot of persuasion. But, you know, there are techniques to divide this up in terms of how much time you spend building that relationship to get them to vote. So, okay, a little bit more to your question. How to do it. Don't take this on yourself. You already told me you're maxed out. You need a new recruit. So you need to look over that voting list and go find somebody. Keep doing this. So what you'd like to do is find somebody in your organization, CPA, accountant, somebody like that who knows spreadsheets. If you're lucky to have a data junkie like Ron, you enlist them. That's what we call them, data junkies. Some people like to do this. So you get somebody like that and you send them down to the supervisor of elections office. And the supervisor of elections is trying to help you. They actually will give you instructions. They give you a file, which is gobbledygook. You need somebody smart enough to click about 2 buttons and import it into a spreadsheet, and then somebody who knows how to use the sort function. That's about as hard as it is. But it's better to have somebody who does that, like an accountant or somebody like that. Yes, sir?
I think you just answered the question. They give you the data in electronic form.
Yes, sir. Most of them use what's called a comma delimited format. It's standard. If you happen to have Microsoft and have an Excel spreadsheet, it knows how to import it. But you have to know about 3 mouse buttons to click. And so, I would recruit somebody who, go find an old Marine drill sergeant and say, okay, we're going to start organizing our county or our precinct, and you're in charge. And then find somebody who knows a little bit about spreadsheets. The next thing I would advise, on this handout that you were given, there's a couple of resources here called the Voices of America. There's a guy by the name of Peter Wolf who, when you all are here, I want you to make sure to meet Dr. Ron Torres from Bear Witness Central. He's seen socialism. Peter Wolf from Germany, his parents actually immigrated here legally from Germany, and he's equally as passionate because he's seen socialism. And these are people that will help you out. Peter Wolf started the Voices of America, and he has all this information about exactly how to do everything on that website. But I would put that up. If you go to, the only one that I've seen is the Cincinnati, Ohio Tea Party. If you go to their website, it actually has the community organizing link right on it for their members. Now, it used to say community organizing. I haven't spent a whole lot of time figuring this out, but now the links are walk list for precinct 2. And the one day I clicked on it, it's by the supervisor of elections. So these people have to do no work whatsoever. Apparently in Cincinnati, if I want a walk list for my precinct, supervisor of elections put it out there for me. So I thought that was interesting. But Peter Wolf has done an amazing amount of work. And so once you're familiar a little bit with that website, now you can start looking for volunteers. The various political people call them block captains, volunteers, somebody that wants to take responsibility for their block. That's all you're asking. And then finally start knocking on doors and meeting your neighbors. There's a lot of emphasis put on face-to-face contact. Now there's, Karen talked a little bit about the social media. That's an amazing tool as well, but it follows along the same line as the relationships. Now, again, to answer your question about who does this and how to do it, we need to recruit in our organizations more the hardcore. Somebody to handle media, somebody, remember I mentioned the drill sergeant, somebody to handle neighborhood organizing, somebody who will look after the data. If you get into this, if you were able to follow along with Ron this morning, once you build these relationships, now you can start accurately predicting how a vote in a particular precinct is going to go. You can literally get down to, all right, I need 100 more votes to take this election. And that's where you're trying to go. And you keep this data. You don't throw it away after each campaign. So that's what I mean by a voter data manager. I think you also need a Facebook manager, a Twitter manager. Peter Wolf, the guy I mentioned before, who has some opinions on socialism, started the Voices of America to train all of us and get us all involved. However, Peter's retired. Why did Peter retire? Peter found the New Organizing Institute. Now, y'all are going to run out and buy the book about the blueprint for Colorado, where the leftists tell us how to take over a state. Peter found the New Organizing Institute, which is a leftist website. It is every aspect of training of this you can imagine, and it's in the videos, just on the social media. The thing that Karen was showing you this morning came from the New Organizing Institute website. They have videos chopped into like 6-minute segments where you can go on those, learn how to use social media. She actually said she learned something by going on and watching those videos. So you don't have to do any of that work. All that heavy lifting has been done for you. All you have to do is recruit some people and tell them to start using this. One of the things that they point out in their videos, by the way, which if you monitor this, folks, I'm sorry, I hate Twitter. You have got to get into Twitter. You have got to get into Facebook. You do not have a choice. If you're here because you're concerned about American values, you have got to get engaged. Okay? Sorry, that's just the way it is. But one of the things they point out is that what makes social media work is routine use. If I take 2 weeks off from tweeting, I lose all the momentum I built for an issue. And what we've learned, what I'm hoping I've learned, is how to directly politicians. Politicians respond to pain. I think, yeah. So that's all I think I have time for today. Again, if I can come make a presentation to you all and get a lot more in the weeds, my contact information is on the handout. Put some other resources on there. One is called Homemakers for America. How many folks are familiar with the old Abigail Adams project? Okay, this is the same lady. Look around, it's the average age in this room. What do y'all think, 110 years? Yeah.
Everybody's 29.
Everybody's 29. How many children do we have in the room? So, again, we need to form coalitions, as Karen pointed out. We need to join with people. So I'm not against Kimberly Fletcher starting Homemakers for America. It gets into homeschooling. It gets into a lot of issues. It gets into values that we represent. So that's on there. Just a couple of whimsical things. I came across this. Smart Girl Politics. How many of you all know Smart Girl Politics? There we go. They're on Twitter. You need to sign up. You need to follow them on Twitter. What's unique about Smart Girl Politics? If you go up to their convention up in Atlanta in a few weeks, you have a gun range session. So, I don't think us men need to apply. By the same token, we have ShePAC. ShePAC is a PAC devoted to conservative voters. So I threw those two things in there kind of on a whim. But anyway, pass that out around, and I'm available for questions. Y'all probably ready to go. So Catherine? I'm done. Any questions?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the drawing for the book.
Tomorrow.
No, it's today. You got a better chance of winning today. Tomorrow there'll be a ton of people here.
I was going to do it afterwards.
Oh, well,
Oh, do it today.
okay.
Oh,
Well,
well.
who's out coming afterwards? I'll hold them. I gotta.
Just get another one by tomorrow.
If you have a workforce in your area and you do not know how to use Excel for the sorting, you can go, I know it's not called workforce anymore, it's got some other fancy name, but it's basically where people go and look for jobs and unemployment and everything. It used to be called So they can give you some steps to get that sorted if you don't have somebody that's tech. Just FYI. And that's a free service. Anybody can go in there. They have free computers. You can, so if you don't have internet connection or something like that, you can go into the workforce and use that. Use their
Public library.
He's got the book.
He already has a copy. I know he has a copy of that book.
All right, guys, well, we are a half an hour early. Anybody want to talk for a half an hour? Are you guys ready to go? All right, well, don't forget, we start tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock with Randy McDaniels on ACT and Minority Outreach, followed by Dr. Juan Torres and Rolando Perez on Minority Outreach. And 11, Gary Bergson with Concerned Veterans, and then Michael Ferris at 1. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was with the organization for the paratroopers and red ants.
Give me your bio and I'll see if I can squeeze you in.
Okay.
So that is our lineup for tomorrow. Everybody have a safe trip back to where you're going this evening, and I hope to see you tomorrow morning in time for our first speaker. Have a great evening.
And we have lots of cards, brochures for free.
And stop by these table vendors before you leave and see what they've got to take home, and don't forget to give them some money.